A wooden craft circle may be super simple and not do much on its own, but if you use enough of them, they can create a lot more than you think. Starting with the largest rings, I added a bead of hot glue all around the top of the ring, trying to concentrate it towards the center as best I could, then added another of the same sized ring on top. I then continued stacking the larger rings on top of each other, adding hot glue in between the layers until I ran out of that size ring. For the final ring, I added the next size down to the top, and now I have cute little stacked wooden vases that make the perfect pieces of decor for my bathroom. For the next project, I blew up a balloon, then placed it with the tied side down on top of a roll of painter's tape to keep it stable. Then I placed the largest sized ring in the middle of the balloon, added a little hot glue to the side of it, then attached a different sized wooden ring to it. I continued adding glue to the sides of the rings and adding more rings. Then I popped the balloon with a pin and removed as many of the balloon pieces as I could. Next, I spray painted the entire bowl in 2 coats of an off-white spray paint and allowed it to fully dry. And now I have the perfect unique flower vase for my table centerpiece. For the last project, I lightly sanded the solid wooden base that I got from the Dollar Tree, then spray painted it in a couple coats of a navy blue chalk paint, then allowed it to fully dry. Next, I added a generous amount of hot glue to the bottom of a tall glass vase I had on hand, then I secured it to the wooden base, centering it as best I could. After that, I began hot gluing wooden furniture buttons I found at the craft store to the top rim of the vase. Once the buttons were in place, I grabbed the 2 smallest size wooden circles I had from the assorted bag. Then, starting with the larger of the 2 sizes, I added a bead of hot glue to one side, then glued it onto the bottom of the vase, making sure it was flush with the blue wooden circle. At the top, I glued the smallest wooden circle above the previous circle slightly to the right and to the left and flush with the row of wooden buttons. Then I began the second vertical row of bigger wooden circles. I added some pretty dried flowers to the vase, but you could add fresh or faux, and now I have a wonderful little accent vase made with wooden circles.
We are going to make some beautiful home decor items using clear Elmer's glue. Up first, we are going to fill this vase with the clear glue. The idea is we want this to look like water. Then we're going to add in some clear and white decorative pebbles. Now I'm going to grab some faux flowers. I chose these roses that have a few leaves and some baby breath on them, and I trimmed them so that there are single stem roses. Now I'm just going to stick these into that glue. Now, what's nice is that this doesn't dry right away, so you've got some time to really arrange these flowers exactly how you want them. You can move them around, make sure they're sticking in between the stones. Once you've got them arranged just right, set this aside and let it dry. Now you have a permanent floral arrangement that looks like it has these water and stones in the bottom of it. This is going to look great in your home. Next up, we are going to grab a couple glass mason jars and we are going to tint these. So you're going to grab a small dish and you're going to fill it with clear glue and a little bit of water. I used about 2 tablespoons of glue and about 1 tablespoon of water. Then I'm going to drop in a little bit of food coloring. I want this to look like a teal blue color, so I'm adding a few drops of blue and 1 drop of green. Then stir it up until it's mixed really well. Now we want to coat the inside of the jar. So grab your mason jar, make sure it's nice and clean, pour that dark blue mixture into the jar and swirl it around so it covers everything. Once you've swirled it all around, you can dump the excess back into the original container. Make sure you're working on a covered surface because this food coloring will stain your table. So I've got some paper down here. Now we want to let this drip for a little bit. I'm just going to add some popsicle sticks to the top of the dish, put the jar right on top of it, let it drip for about 10 minutes. Once it's done dripping, take a paper towel, wipe off any excess drips that are around the rim of the jar, then place this upside down on a piece of parchment paper and pop it in your oven at 175 for about 20 minutes. This is going to bake that coloring onto the inside of the jar. After 20 minutes, take it out, turn it right side up, and let it cool completely. If after it's cooled you still see some streaks, you can put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes. These jars make great decor around your home. Just remember, they're not vases, you can't fill them with water, but you can definitely display some dried flowers in them.
This is Dave from Dave's Recent Things, and you're watching Home Talk. So I got this amazing vase. Look at this. I just love this. So I got it at my local thrift store. I just shopped around a little bit. I spent some time kind of moving things on the shelf, trying to find things, and I finally found this little guy here. And the second item I'm going to be using today are these chinoiserie inspired napkins. These are just cocktail sized napkins. There is 40 in a package here. So why don't we just open these up? These have a really nice pattern on them, and they're nice and large. So we have a good working area with them. I think the first thing that I am going to do is I'm just going to cut out maybe the squares here first. And I'm just going to create a nice little pile on the side. And normally with the napkins, if you're decoupaging, or if you decoupage a lot, or if you've never decoupaged before, there's usually like 2-ply or 3-ply. These are 3-ply, and normally you just kind of fold it over and take the first layer where the printed design is on. But I'm actually going to keep all the layers together because I don't want it to be so transparent. I want it to be, I want it to show that white on the background for sure. So I have my little pile here of my cut up napkins. I'm going to bring in my vase, and of course, once I got this home, I gave it a good wash, and I put some alcohol, used some alcohol, just rubbing alcohol on the outside as well. And today I'm just going to be using Mod Podge here. It's a water-based glue, and if you don't have Mod Podge, you can actually just use some white glue, like Elmer's glue or anything like that, any glue that you can find at the dollar store really. Mix it with a little bit of water, and that's going to give you kind of a pasty substance that's almost like Mod Podge. Now what I'm going to do here, ooh, this guy's a little bit heavy, is I'm just going to add a little bit of Mod Podge and create a base first. And I'm just going to take my brush and apply that little base down first. Then once you have your little layer down, you can take that napkin, and I am just going to apply it using my fingers, moving it around the way I want it to. Making sure it's nice and secured. And then on top of that, I'm just going to add a little layer, one more layer of Mod Podge, all across that napkin. I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to take this part off here and just apply that right to the top there. And then continue the same process, applying the Mod Podge over top of that napkin. So I've got my first row done here. Now I'm just going to apply some more Mod Podge on the side, and I'm just going to continue doing that same thing, same routine, same method, same process, all along the sides here. Working my way all the way around this vase. And there we go. We are done Mod Podging. I'm going to let this dry for 24 hours and then we'll come back and finish it off. I have waited my 24 hours. Everything is all dry. And now I'm going to move on to the top portion. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just going to be taking some white acrylic paint and just painting the tops and just the inside lip right there. Our first coat is all dry now, so let's do a second coat, just coating up the top the same way we did before. And my base coat is all dry with that white. And the last little thing that I'm gonna do to add a little zhuzh or pizzazz is I'm gonna use some silver metallic paint and just paint that little bump here, that little ridge there. I think it'll add a little something to it. So I'm just gonna take my paint and paint that little ridge there. And I've applied my first coat. We're gonna need a second coat on that, but I'm gonna let that one dry for a bit. And then I will come back and apply that second coat of silver paint. But there you have it, our chinoiserie inspired decoupage vase.